Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. Today's guest is going to be Judy Carroll, and we will be talking about her lifelong experiences with the Zetas. And she's also written several books, and I'm hoping to get into all those different subjects with her. For those of you that are new to this time, we're usually on at 7, but Judy is actually live from Australia with us today. So I'm wanting to oblige and wanted to be able to do the show with her. So that's why we're doing a bit of a later date, or I should say time. But if you have some questions for Judy later on, you can either submit the question on Twitch or YouTube chat. Please make sure to put down the 3 asterisks first before your question, so that I know it's meant for Judy. And also, you can talk to Judy directly via asking a question using Telegram. The link for the UFO Hub group is in the description below. You can download Telegram on your phone or the computer, and you'll see a voice chat going on there right now. So we're basically streaming on YouTube, streaming on Twitch, and voice only over Telegram. So anyway, that's pretty much it. So without any further ado, let me bring Judy in. Judy, welcome. Thanks for being on.
Hi, Adnan. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad we're able to make this happen. And as I was making the joke earlier, this is my second time to be talking to a time traveler, because you are 16 hours ahead, and it's, what, 1 p.m. on a Friday already there?
Yes, it is. That's exactly right. And
All
yes,
right.
you've got a nice future ahead of you.
Good deal. Because as I was, my first guest was Mary Rodwell, a pre-recorded interview, and we did that also time delayed. And I told her, if something is happening in the future, you tell me, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, Judy, what I basically just wanted to, the way I'd like to start out, especially with first-time guests, if you could please give me a little bit of background about yourself and how you generally started out with your experiences or the things you do today, and so we can then go from there.
Yes, Adnan, no worries. I actually came into this life. I made a pre-birth choice of coming in as what's known as a dual or a melded soul consciousness. And I made preparation for this actually before birth. And the reason why I did this was because the work I plan to carry out down here, which is part of my mission, is to act like a bridge or an ambassador between Earth plane humanity and the Greys. So before birth, I linked energetically into both of the collectives, both the Earth Human Collective and the Grey Collective, so that I carry the vibration of both races. Generally, when people are coming in, they just link into one planetary collective, but I linked into 2, and there's several of us here who've done this. Susie Hansen in New Zealand is another dual soul person. So prior to coming in, I made this connection between the 2, but I also specifically planned to close off my off-planet conscious awareness before I came in, because I wanted to fully experience what it was like to be an Earth human and to have ET contact through childhood, but not to have the conscious understanding of it, because I specifically wanted to experience the fear involved. I know that a lot of people suffer from terrible fear who are going through contact, particularly with the Greys, because the Greys do look different. And I allowed myself to experience that fear through childhood, so that now when I'm dealing with someone who's having this fear, I understand, I empathise, I exactly know where they're coming from. So all through my childhood, the huge fear I had a fear of the dark, terrified someone was going to come into the house and take me, because I was having contact, but I couldn't remember who with. I remember being taken up the street one night by a very tall female being that I thought of as my grandmother. But when I asked my grandmother about it, she had no idea what I was talking about. And this tall female being took me to what my child's mind perceived as being a train station, and we boarded a train. But in actual fact, I was taken onto a ship. And apparently this used to happen quite regularly, but because of my not being able to quite link into my ET side at that stage. It just came through as fear. I had all the usual fears that people do who are having contact with the greys. I've had a fear of dolls, a fear of puppets, you know, with their thin sort of limbs. I had a thing about eyes. I was scared of eyes, which sound really, really weird, but people who've been through fear with the greys will understand what I'm talking about. At age 15, I had a paralysis experience, a sleep paralysis experience, which again is very, very typical of ET contact. And during that experience was when I started being awakened to who I really was and, you know, the grey ET side of my consciousness. And I connected with a teacher who I later came to know as Maris. Now, I didn't at that stage realise that he was an ET. In Australia, there was just nothing like that back then. We didn't have the Roswell event that you folks in America had. So ETs just weren't a part of our society or our knowledge or anything. So how I got my head around it was I thought of him as being a Davic soul, as a nature spirit. This felt comfortable with me. I knew he wasn't human, but to me he was a nature spirit. So anyway, Maris helped me quite a lot from age 15. He guided me into becoming a professional dancer with a view to down the track when this sort of thing would really help me with my work. And because it was all a pre-birth choice, and I was born into a family. My great-grandmother was a flamenco dancer and also a psychic medium in the gypsy tradition. And what I didn't realise until many, many years later, the flamenco dance is part of the shamanic tradition. And so my training in that taught me how to go into a trance state while still doing something physical. In the Spanish tradition or Spanish gypsy tradition, when a flamenco dancer performs, they speak of the duende coming upon them. And this word actually means spirit. And it means like going into a trance state. And because it has shamanic roots, the rhythm and the tempo of the music is what draws you into the trance state. And I learned to do this very, very quickly. Some dancers never achieve it, but I actually learned it very, very fast, right from the age of 15. And I did a lot of hard training, so I had to learn to maintain this trance state while at the same time doing very intricate footwork and playing castanets. And what this was doing, it was actually balancing the left and right hemispheres of my brain. And this came to my aid many, many years later when I learned to channel, and I was learning to do automatic writing. And so I can place myself into an altered state to receive messages from what I call upstairs my family, and I can write it down at the same time. So this early training was absolutely brilliant. At age 30, I experienced a full daytime contact experience with greys. I went to lie down in the afternoon. I was feeling a bit off colour, and I went to lie down upstairs and went into an altered state with a strange sort of roaring, buzzing sound going in my head and the body paralysis. And the next thing I became aware of was 3 greys in the room. And they were so 3D solid, they were actually blocking the light from a window. They were standing between me and the window. And as soon as I saw them, I recognised them as family, and all traces of fear just fell away completely. And they had a long talk, and we had a long talk together, and they explained to me that I would have to come back into the city. We were living in the country at the time. They said, it's time for you to get back to work. You've got to stop hiding yourself away out here. And they told me that I needed to learn meditation, but because I was a dancer and therefore a very active person, they advised me to learn Tai Chi, which I had never even heard of. So they explained to me it's something like yoga, but it's moving. And what I didn't know at the time, Tai Chi is known as moving meditation. So over the next 3 years, everything fell into place. We moved back to town. I found Tai Chi classes around the corner. I found a meditation group. I was invited to join a meditation group. And the Gray family had also told me that I had to learn an alternative type of natural healing. And this also came to pass through Reiki when I was introduced to Reiki. I sat in the meditation circle for about 8 years, training and channeling and automatic writing. And this was when the books and messages started coming through that I took down through the writing. And that's basically when it all started happening from there. The experience that I went through when I was 30 was basically a download of my ET consciousness. So I had this huge download and started remembering my ET self. So that pretty well sums up how I got into all of this.
Thank you for sharing that. So basically, was it that they basically just had this mission to you to get as much information about them to the rest of you humans and to be more familiarized as to not to fear, or just to be more aware of them in general?
Look, both, all of those, Adnan. As many of our listeners know, the planet's going through a major shift at the moment. This has been predicted by the Hopi people and the Mayan people, and we're going through it right now. Planet Earth is stepping up from fourth dimensional, or the fourth world consciousness, that's a better word for it, to fifth world consciousness. So we're moving from third and fourth dimension up to fifth. So people need to start awakening, and the Greys are one of the main groups down here doing this. And so many people have fear of them. There's been so much disinformation put out on them because the ones who are controlling the planet don't want humanity to wake up, and it's the Greys' job to do it. Hence, when a lot of people have a contact experience, the ET says to them, it's time for you to wake up. I remember saying it to someone during a contact experience. So my job, and that of quite a few of our other people down here, is to just speak out as I'm doing now, so people get to see what Greys are like. As I say to people, I'm no different. When I'm working up on the ship as a Grey, or when I'm speaking to people here, I'm no different. I'm exactly the same person. So, hopefully it helps people to get past the fear. And that's specifically been my job down here. So it's getting people past the fear, helping them to awaken to more consciousness. That's what I'm here for.
So there's about two directions I want to go with you here, but I hope it doesn't confuse you too much. On one end, I wanted to basically ask, when you're having your experiences, is it an actual physical experience to where they would take you onto the ships and you do what you need to do? That's one part. And then the other part I wanted to ask was, slipped my mind, so never mind. Let's just go with that one, and I'll come back later.
Yeah. Well, I'm not actually taken physically. Very few contact experiences are physical. They seem to be at the time, but what it is, our astral or spirit form leaves the body, and that's what's taken up on the ship. But at the same time, when things are done up on the ship to people, like, for example, say someone undergoes an operation up there, they can come back down here with a small scar or whatever on their physical body, even though they've been taken astrally. Because as we teach in Reiki, everything that manifests as a symptom has its cause on a high level of our being. And this is where natural medicine is better than traditional Western type medicine. Natural therapies like Reiki and acupuncture and reflexology, etc., address the cause at the higher level, the fourth or fifth dimensional level, hopefully before it reaches a physical level as an effect or a symptom. So when we take people up on the ship, we work on that higher part of their body, but when they come back down here, it's also worked through to the physical. A lot of people go up there, they come back actually with bruises and marks on their body. I have a close friend who does that, and she actually works up there. And she'll come back with bruises on her body, and it's nothing hurts or anything. It's just to let her know she's been up there. So she'll come back and wake up the next morning, find a bruise on her leg or something, and she knows she hasn't hit herself. And she'll think, oh, I was working up on the ship last night. Oh, okay. I've come back with scars and things on my body from being up there.
So often on the show, I always talk about these different frequency levels and trying to explain how often challenging physical contact is to the human body. And just because of the different vibrations.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? That or basically, what the way I was always explaining it is that I actually didn't go into this because it's not about me, but I just want to tell you real quick. The experiences that I've had was exactly that. That was trying to let me know this is how challenging and how humans react to us when we try to physically be in their presence. I mean, we freak out. You know, beyond that, there's actually like this vibration that the body actually it's almost too much to take, depending on, you know, from where they're coming from. So it's a lot easier just to do this work out of body. And so, can you maybe speak a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, for sure. When our higher teachers, our grey mantled teachers, used to come on a regular basis with a friend of mine who was her daughter was having a lot of very, very conscious experiences. They would have to leave after a while because you get this inner coldness and shaking that almost overcomes you. And what it is, it's just a pure physiological reaction of the human body. But what a lot of people think that it's a fear or something negative, and it's not. It's just a purely physiological reaction that the body has to the higher frequency. And the higher the frequency, the colder it gets, and it can get quite uncomfortable. This teacher we used to work with, Oris, after about an hour, he'd see and he'd leave. He'd say, okay, it's time for me to go, because we were just shivering and shaking and wrapping ourselves in blankets. So, yeah, absolutely. And as I say, this freaks people out. So it is a bit of a difficulty, and it happens with many, many people. It's just the same as when a person comes in contact with a ghost or a spirit. There's like a cold patch they'll feel, and it's just a different level of frequency. It's all to do with energy frequencies vibrating at different levels.
Okay. And so, regarding the other question I had, and I actually remembered it, this is kind of funny how I got an email, and I'm not belittling this person. Sometimes I can't get to everybody, but it's also based on the nature of the emails. I cannot really tell if they're being serious or what. But this one particular person emailed me saying, hey, I bought your shirt with the big gray alien on it, right? And that's what we have on the show. And she said, then I saw a drawing of a malevolent alien, and I stopped wearing it because I don't want to promote the bad aliens. And basically, the all of this, it's a Zeta, or basically, or a gray alien with just big eyes and big head, right? That's the image of itself. Can you maybe go a little bit onto those details, maybe to dispel maybe some things about, are all the grays on the same page? Are there different grays? Or are we talking about just the same grays in different environments that are being perceived as several different groups?
Okay, it falls basically into two categories: the genuine greys and non-genuine greys. There's MyLab military abductions being carried out down here. Dr. Stephen Greer talks about this, and they've created these sort of bio life form sort of things. They're sort of bio but robotic, and they're made to resemble the greys, to cause people to fear the genuine greys. And these things, no, they're not very nice, are used in the MyLab abductions, along with drugs and holographic imagery and all sorts of things. So if a person has a contact experience where there's violence or rape or anything like that, it is not a genuine experience. It's a MyLab experience. And they're often subjected to these little Stephen Greer calls them PLFs, programmed life forms. The genuine greys, yes, there are a whole lot of different greys. People just lump them all together. But there are greys coming in from the past, there's present greys and future greys. Dr. Courtney Brown goes into this in great detail in his books Cosmic Voyage and Cosmic Explorers, about the different levels of greys. And all of them are trying to help down here. They're trying to do the right thing. So one group, the past greys, needed healing themselves, because they did lose their ability to experience emotion because of something that happened in their past. A major, major trauma happened in their past. So there's an exchange of genetic material going on with them, so that they're linking into human DNA, but they're also passing on higher DNA to people down here. So it's like an exchange program to help them to get their emotional ability back and to help Earth humans to wake up to higher consciousness levels. Whereas the future greys are just about like they're angelic. They're absolutely beautiful beings. There's a huge love comes from them. Like when I connect with my grey family, I feel love beyond words. So providing they're genuine greys, well, there's nothing to be scared of. But there is a major program down here trying to make people scared, a big disinformation program going on.
Do you know exactly what the point of that disinformation is? Are they still kind of trying to mimic and copy what the actual Greys are doing, or are they just just bad all around? The MyLab experiences.
No, what it is, I speak about this very, very widely in my book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth. There's a group down here that I refer to as the Reptilian Controllers, who are an old, very, very ancient Earth human group, and they hijacked the planet. I think Sherry Weil talks about this as well. They hijacked the planet going back many, many millennia ago, and they don't want to give up control. So what they've been doing for millennia, they've been brainwashing and exploiting Earth humans through fear. They do it through religion, they do it through politics, they do it through the entertainment industry, and anything to stop people from waking up, to keep them stuck. And the genuine greys who are coming here assist with evolution throughout the whole universe. So the controllers don't want them coming here because the greys are coming here to try and help to free Earth humans up to enable them to go through the shift with their planet. As one of the grey teachers explained once, with planet Earth, it's almost like it's been shunted or pushed into this little stagnant pool beside the free-flowing river of the universe. So people down here have been held back and held back and held back and blocked from moving on. And it's time now that this has got to stop. So this is why the greys and many other ETs are coming here to try and put a stop to it. But because the greys are the main ones involved, being the experts in DNA and evolution, etc., this group down here is demonising them, making people afraid of them. Because if people are scared, they're not going to open up and listen to them.
So regarding the Greys themselves, these different groups you said this is the past, the future ones. Do they collaborate at all, or do they all just already know what each one's supposed to do? Because actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Just yesterday during Open Lines, when somebody called in, I was talking to them about that very part regarding Courtney Brown. Because I was telling him I had a long time ago got both of his books, and he goes into great details regarding that. Now, can you, from your perspective, go a little bit into that, whether or not these two past and future Greys interact with each other, or maybe do collaborative work?
Oh, they certainly do, yes. You'll find all three of them up on the ships. And the past Greys, they had an original race on Earth known as the Ant people, that the Hopi people talk about. So they're the sort of the past tense Greys. And the present tense Greys and the future tense Greys are assisting to heal them as well. So it's like they're the ones who are doing the genetic work to help both the older Grey group and the Earth human group. So yeah, they work together. What happens sometimes, people have an experience with one of the small Greys, and it seems to be scary. Like the daughter of this friend, the lady who co-wrote the Zeta message book, Helene Kay, her daughter went through a lot of conscious experiences. And on one occasion, one of the small Greys came into her room and just went straight for her throat with his hands. And so, of course, she freaked out, which is understandable. So then one of the older Greys, Oris, who was teaching us, he stepped in and took over. And all that this little Grey was doing, he was coming in to give the daughter, Kira, healing on her throat, because the throat and the ankles are the two places on the body where the ETs will often give healing, because so many meridians, energy meridians, pass through the throat and through the ankles. So that was what this little Grey was doing. But because he sort of, they don't always think, they can be a bit silly, And he didn't do it properly. He just kind of came in and gave her a fright, whereas Horus went in very gently and, put his hand on the shoulder and then across to the throat. And he was teaching this younger grey how to do it. You don't just bore in like that. You've got to do it like this. And people have had this experience up on the ship with the young ones doing something a bit silly and then a taller grey coming in, stepping in and taking over.
So the Greys, I don't know if supposed to be is the correct question, but are they the majority of interactions are mainly initiated or I should say planned by the Greys? And also in regards to the Greys, what about these other different alien races? Do they also kind of work together? So for example, we heard about Pleiadians, and heard about, all these different constellations wherever they happen to be from. Can you please speak a little bit to that?
Oh, yes. Look, when you move past, I'll talk about later in a few minutes, I'll talk about the human ladder, which is like an evolutionary path through the universe that all human races go through. And planet Earth's right down the bottom. As soon as you start moving up the ladder to higher frequencies where you can access greater percentages of your potential conscious awareness, all the ET people are very much into oneness. They work together. The Greys work with the Pleiadians and with the Arcturians and with the, whoever. They all work together. They very, very much so. Planet Earth is the focus of it at the moment because of this consciousness shift that's going on. So everybody's working together. Probably the Pleiadians will be the first ones to come forward because they look more like Earth humans. They're very closely related to humans down here. They're basically cousins of humans down here. So they'll be the ones who come first. To make way for the Greys to come through. So, yeah, they all work together. And as for the contact experience, I know a lot of people get very angry and say, oh, how dare they do this? They're going against my free will, coming and abducting me. What people don't realise is everyone who is having genuine experience has chosen this before birth. It's a pre-birth plan that they've made. And they've approached the Greys or whoever before they were born into this life and said, okay, I'm ready for my next evolutionary step. Will you come in and help me? And the Grey will say, yes, okay, I'll come in, and they'll discuss it. So it's all pre-birth, all pre-planned.
And so can you talk a little bit about what is the whole point then about the hybridization program and whether or not it was initiated by the Greys or those particular Zetas?
Yeah. Now, again, there's two hybridization programs happening. There's the genuine ones with genuine Greys carrying it out, and there's a negative one with the MyLab people trying to create these super soldiers and things like that. The genuine hybridization program is to assist Earth humans up to the next level of the human ladder, so to help to open up human consciousness, hence the message, it's time for you to wake up, and also to assist the past tense Greys to access more emotion. So it's like a two-way exchange.
And so can you maybe speak a little bit about how exactly is it supposed to be helping us, not by replacing us, right?
Oh, no way.
Okay.
No way. Upgrading.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
is it just to have another alien race closer to our vibration, or you mean to just kind of develop this next generation human? I mean, can you please speak to that?
Yeah, it's to develop the next generation of humans who will be up to level 2 of the human ladder. I'll just explain this human ladder. Horus, the tall grey teacher, gave us a teaching on this back in about 2001. And he explained that there are these 10 levels in the universe. They refer to them as galactic levels, but they're not places. They're levels of conscious awareness. And planet Earth, Earth plane humanity, is on the first level. So therefore they can access approximately 10% of their potential conscious awareness. Now, we're not talking about brain here, we're talking about conscious awareness, and it's intrinsically linked into the level of DNA we have activated. So each is about 10%. Now, the next step for planet Earth is to step up to level 2, in which people can access 20% of their conscious awareness. So they need to have 20% of their DNA activated. So this is the work that the genuine Greys and other ETs are carrying out. And why people are being taken up on the ships. It's to help to upgrade the DNA so that they can start to open up to 20% conscious awareness. Once we reach the third level of the human ladder, 30% conscious awareness, and so on, up to the 10th level, where we're just pure, full conscious awareness mind. And this is what people sort of think of as God or angelic or whatever, which is just pure consciousness.
So I guess then, in a way, this comes back down to what we're talking about: actual contact and the different vibrations, and how challenging or difficult it is for the human body. But again, I'm sorry, maybe it's just me being a bit slow today. But to help out, meaning, let's say, like you and I and everyone else alive, to get to that vibrational frequency, or do you mean help out by, I guess, to be more blunt, sexually interact with the aliens to then create this human being that can have 20, 30, and so on %? Can you please define a little bit more what you mean by helping out?
Yeah, it is to do with consciousness. There's no sexuality involved at all. That's not how higher ETs operate. It's all done, how can I say, like they'll just take cells from a human body and mix them with ET cells. So it's all basically done in vitro. But it's more to do with upgrading the human race and upgrading this older grey race. So it's two races working together to be upgraded.
Okay. So at the end, like right now, as the planet as it is, what do they have to say? Do you have any recent information, I guess, in that way about things getting better? Will it get darker before it gets lighter? You know, what can you speak to that as well, please?
Look, I think changes are happening. I know people are really going through stuff at the moment with all this COVID thing and that, but it is part of the upgrading process, believe it or not. What I can do, if you like, my grey teacher Mara sent through a teaching on what's going on at the moment. I can read that out if you'd like me to do that.
Sure.
I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Things are changing, but they're changing so slowly, and we've got to, it's all as dark as before the dawn, as they say.
Yes, please do, if you have it in front of you.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Everything in the universe is energy, so everything that manifests in the universe, whether perceived by Earth humans as good or bad, comes originally from source. To understand the reason why seemingly negative events occur, such as this virus, there are three basic facts that need to be taken into consideration. Firstly, source, or God energy, is non-polarized. It's neither negative nor positive, but rather composed of both polarities, held in a state of perfect oneness and balance. However, once energy moves out from source and transmutes to a lower frequency, and most especially on a highly polarized planet such as Earth, separation and polarization occur. One aspect of extreme polarization are the illusions of good and bad. In the greater reality, these opposites do not apply. All is oneness and balance. But in 3D Earth plane manifestation, yes, such states are a subject of reality. Secondly, death is an illusion. What Earth humans perceive as the greatest tragedy that can happen, the death of a human being, is simply a prime opportunity for spiritual growth and evolution. The death of the physical body, which is nothing more than a container for the soul, frees the spirit to enable us to focus on higher learning. It can then choose whether to reincarnate back to a physical life on Earth or elsewhere, or else to progress to a higher, less physical level of the human ladder. No death is ever accidental. Every soul freely chooses in its pre-birth state when, where, and how it will make its transition at the end of the coming life. This virus is offering an opportunity for those who aren't ready for the planetary shift to leave through the portal of death. This will then enable them to reincarnate back again if and when they're spiritually ready. The virus is part of a planetary and universal plan and purpose to enable ascension. Thirdly, the planetary shift from fourth to fifth world consciousness. We've discussed this in the past, and it is most important to understand that when a planet is going through an evolutionary shift, as Earth is doing right now, those souls who are not ready or able to consciously make the transition in synchronization with their home planet take the opportunity to make a timely exit through death so that they can then partake of higher learning between lives. They can then either reincarnate back again in step with their higher evolved planet, or else to another version of the planet that is more compatible with their lower energy frequency. Remember, planets as sentient beings are multidimensional. So in the greater reality, there is an Earth to suit all tastes. This is the reason why mass deaths always occur around the time of planetary shifts. Death is not an ending, but rather a beginning. We are quite aware of the myriad conspiracy theories doing the rounds on Earth in connection with COVID-19, with certain negative agencies being blamed for creating and spreading the virus. Earth humans are always happiest when they have an enemy to blame for their woes. The bottom line, however, comes back to the personal Armageddon you are all facing as a result of the changing and evolving planetary energies. That is the choice between love and fear. It all comes back to this. The occurrence of the virus is providing a major opportunity for spiritual growth by providing this choice between love and fear. You cannot evolve spiritually if you are not provided with this all-important choice. So in reality, the negative forces down here are doing you a great favour. In a way, they are your guardian angels. The choice is yours to make, each and every one of you. Are you going to be pulled into the herd instinct, stampeding into fear and panic, trampling over others around you in your terror, or are you drawn to a more evolved human energy of love and trust, and knowing that no matter what, all is well, and even death is not the end, but rather an opportunity for evolution to a higher state. Lastly, a point to consider, if you really can't get past your fear of potential death, fear has a very detrimental effect on the human immune system. So keeping positive is a great preventative medicine to help you to stay healthy.
Great, thank you for that. Well, I don't want to be, proven right by going immediately negative. There's plenty of positive things that were in that message, but I hope you allow me to ask this. So from his perspective, then maybe he's just kind of trying to get more clarification, I guess maybe to help clarify regarding the virus itself. Is it a man-made progression, or is it mainly just something that occurred as they all like us to believe that it came from a bat?
Oh, look, both. It's really complex to try and explain. We're looking at different levels here. The absolute bottom line of it is the fact that it's affecting people affecting humanity in the same way as humanity has affected the planet. In the way pollution and that's affecting the respiratory systems of the planet, forests being cut down, etc. And the COVID's basically doing the same thing. So the absolute bottom line is it's balancing things out.
And so is it a genuine response regarding the jabs for people, or is it more of a nefarious plan?
Well, again, it's the intention behind it. If you're going in through fear, then it's going to have a negative effect. If you're going through love and trust, it'll be positive. It's individual for everybody.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. So, so I guess then by you doing that reading, that gives us a pretty good idea where they then believe where we stand as of right now. So, I guess, usually I don't know why this is. Maybe it's because negativity is more of a motivator for humans than more comfortable in loving things. Is it something that I guess everyone else should just take the time now to just say, okay, it is maybe a difficult time for me. Maybe I'm going through all these different things, but then to actually allow themselves to kind of spring about in a new way of thinking about their situation? Or what would you recommend for those that are just, I guess, different things. I mean, I'm not that type of person, so, but it's just from what I always hear about people that have depression. They have fears about, okay, are there going to be lockdowns? Are there not going to be lockdowns? You know, regarding the jabs, do I have to take it in order to have a job to support my family? Others say, well, I'll just take it and I'll have a job. So there's different people with different mindsets. So what would you recommend for those, you know, people at this time to do?
Yeah, look, the bottom line, and this is something that the grey teachers keep ramming down our throats, because, I mean, we're only human, we have ups and downs, but the bottom line is, and quantum physics is proving this, we create our own reality. Earth is a school planet, and we're here to learn to be creators. So we've got to learn to create positively rather than negatively before we're going to be released upon the rest of the universe. And so creating positively is a lesson that we're here to learn. It comes easier to some people and not so easy for others, but that's the bottom line. We create our own reality. So it's worthwhile putting a little bit of effort into trying to create a more positive mindset and future for yourself than a negative. Mara's actually sent a teaching through on this many, many years ago. I haven't got it at hand to read out, but basically what he was saying was being positive is a lot harder than being negative. Being negative is like being a jellyfish being washed backwards and forwards in the tide. Everything that happens around you impacts upon you. You get affected by it. You get pulled down. Being positive is an active choice that you have to really concentrate on, and you know, it's not just floating around. You've got to do something. What I always advise people is to take up a spiritual practice of some sort. It doesn't matter what, but taking up a spiritual practice, because spiritual practice means something to you, and whether that's meditation, Tai Chi, praying, whatever, saying the rosary if you're a Catholic, whatever, if it makes you feel good, then it's going to raise your vibrational frequency, because that's the other bottom line. We're all energy beings. At their lowest, like common denominator, I shouldn't say lowest, but our common denominator is in everything is energy. And so what we've got to do what we can to keep our energy vibrating at a high frequency, which is a frequency of love, joy, peace, you know, all the nice things. Low energy is all your aggression and your warmongering and your fear and your all the negative stuff. So, you know, keeping ourselves in that more positive mindset is our biggest protection.
So, Judy, I still have plenty of questions, but I thought just to make it fair, would it be all right if we then, I'll ask a question, and so they'll give enough time for those that want to jump in on Telegram to ask you directly or to submit in chat. So at least in that way we can continue by them maybe coming up with other questions that I might not know to. Although I have very selfish reason to ask plenty of others, but again, I would like people to interact more, and if you don't mind, if we can go into that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll ask one more question, and then they'll give enough time for those to log into Telegram or to submit their questions on Twitch or YouTube chat. Please make sure to include 3 asterisks before you ask the question, so it'll be a lot easier for me to read it. So the question I have for you, Judy, is basically on a time span, since we as I guess these human egos always want the time and when and how and all of that, if it's possible, when do they foresee the contact in the way we wish for contact to occur? When do they foresee that happening?
Oh, look, they won't put a time span on it. It's really up to humanity. At the moment, with all the negative stuff being put out about the greys, I can't see it happening too soon. Again, time, we create our own reality. So really time and the future is being created all the time. And there are different timelines, like, it depends on which timeline we're on. So no, I can't say that. I will never make predictions, and the genuine greys won't either, because they can't. It's up to human free will. When people are ready, they'll come. Before that, they'll make their appearances, but they won't, come with a full-on sort of display in the sky or anything like that.
Okay, I understand. I thought I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, have a go.
Okay, so the first question I have is from Edgar, and he's asking, are you sometimes encouraged to go on specific kind of diet or eat certain things to prepare your physical body for encounter or being in their presence?
Yeah, look, just trying to eat as healthy as possible and keeping away from things like drugs and alcohol, because they do mess your mind up. Um, I have cut alcohol out completely now. I used to drink a little bit of wine. Being in showbiz, of course, people tend to, but I have cut alcohol out completely, and I try and eat a very healthy diet. I know a lot of people are into vegetarianism and veganism, but that doesn't suit everybody. We're in human mammalian bodies, and different blood types need different diets. Some blood types just can't take being vegetarian, so don't worry about that too much. I remember hearing, I think it was Jesus said, and I thought this is a lovely saying. He said, don't worry about what you put into your mouth, it's what comes out of your mouth you've got to worry about. So don't worry too much about that, but eat as healthy as a diet as you can, and just try and live as clean a life as possible, because that helps your vibrational frequency to come up, makes contact easier.
Great, thank you for that. Sonia is asking, says, grace are supposed to be us in the future. Have you heard this as well?
The raise us in the future. No, that's not quite right. I know there was a bit of a misinterpretation about that. That's not quite right. No, we're on a different line.
Okay. Or
Yeah.
is it us from a different dimension, maybe? Would that be a better question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Seeking Truth 100%. So this AI that people are getting put in their bodies for mandates, does this have to do with future transhumanism like the grace?
Look, I don't know that much about it. I don't really want to go into that because, you know, you can get into trouble. I'm not really sure. What
Okay.
I'm doing, I'll just explain, I have to get a jab because I teach Tai Chi at a senior citizen centre, and the mandates are coming in. I also have a relative who's 101 years old in a nursing home, and to visit her, I have to be able to visit her. So I'm going to get the jabs. I'm not going into it with fear. I'm adjusting my diet to be as healthy as I can, and I'm a Reiki master, so I'll be giving myself a lot of Reiki. My intention is it's going to be fine.
Okay. Fab22 is asking, is the Chilbolton crop circle of 2001 in relation with the Arecibo answer of 1971? Do you know what he's referring to?
Vaguely. I'm not really up on crop circles.
Because I think Arecibo answer of 1971, I believe there was a message sent, kind of I guess a different scientists have come up with all these different mathematical questions and sent an answer out there. And then sure enough, there was a crop circle that was basically in regards to the graphic and you know, they used to have, they kind of put out the strain of the DNA, but then got in return a different strain of DNA and different answers. So can you maybe speak to that? If not, I'll just go on to the next question.
Yeah, I remember now what you're talking about. Yes, it was an answer to the message that was sent out. It was an answer to that. So basically just trying to connect with people down here through the crop circles, because they send messages through the crop circles, and a lot of the symbolism that's used in crop circles works very much like Reiki symbols in that they actually impact upon the human DNA and vibrational frequency to, again, assist in the shift upwards.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Vicky Fox. Why are the Greys using the egg sperm for hybrids?
To help to improve their own race and to help to improve the human race. So there's two hybrid species being created. There's a grey hybrid with a lot more human DNA put in, and they're putting off-planet DNA into Earth humans to upgrade the species, not necessarily Ray. See, everyone down here, what people have got to realise is every Earth human is a hybrid. You know, we talk about hybrids, but we're all hybrids. Otherwise, we'd be swinging through the trees with our tails. So the hybridisation, they're using a whole range of different off-planet genetics depending upon which one you resonate with. Like, for example, myself, I resonate with the Greys, but plenty more other people resonate with the Pleiadians or the Syrians or whoever. So whichever group you resonate with would be the DNA that's being used to upgrade you.
Okay. The next question is from Mark, asking, please elaborate on contact and how it relates to Kundalini.
Yeah, well, Kundalini is basically, it comes back to energy, raising the vibrational frequency. So some people who have a contact experience do undergo a Kundalini experience as well. Sometimes it happens fast, which just about blows your head off. Other times it's much more gentle and not, you know, you're not quite aware of it happening. Like I've had about 3 upgrades from upstairs during experiences, and one of them involved a needle with a very large crystal. It was about that big and the needle about that long. The crystal was a bright blue colour, being inserted into my third eye chakra point. And I woke up the next morning with a crescent-shaped scar on my chakra. And I came to realise later I'd had a huge download of information put in. So that was sort of like a Kundalini experience, because I could feel it for several weeks after. I felt a little bit sort of off-centre and that. So, yeah, it's all linked in together. It's all to do with energy enhancement and opening up our higher consciousness.
You know, it sounds a bit silly, you know, for those that are new to the subject or generally that are into the subject but don't necessarily agree with some of the markings that are left behind and whatnot. But from personal experience, when I was still in St. Louis, Missouri, and attending all these different meetings, I would know some close friends of mine and whose experiences I trust very much when they say, hey, this is what I went through, because they would join these small groups to tell a small group of people because they were afraid to go to a psychiatrist, you know, and they can't tell their friends or family. But what's very interesting, especially when then they would tell the different stories, and then, for example, I saw this I don't know, it's so weird. You would think that it wouldn't have this much of an effect, but on his forearm, he had this perfect three-dot triangle. You know,
wow,
and it was dark and was very specific and distinct, you know, and yes, it almost looked like a laser edged to, you know, on it, but it was it really adds something. It adds a different level to a story. It's almost like as if it itself had a vibration to send out, you know, to like, oh wow, you know, it's like it's one thing to convey experiences and, you know, interpret dreams and out of body experiences, but to have this physical, you know, left behind thing, it really had quite an effect, and it does of everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'd like to actually put a little short story, and a very similar thing happened to me. One morning I woke up, a memory of being up on the ship, and I could remember either lying down on the bed or standing behind the bed with my body out of my body and my body lying on the bed, and 2 of the little greys, the young greys, were using a laser cutter on my leg, and I was actually allowing them to practice. I was teaching them how to do it and using my body for them to practice on. Anyway, I woke up the next morning and I couldn't quite remember all the details, but I knew I'd been there. And we were going to the beach that day, so I went to put some suntan lotion on my leg, and I found this long, straight cut, about that long, right around the bottom part of my leg above the ankle. It was cauterized with little blisters, and it was absolutely dead straight. And when I saw it, then the memory flooded back. Oh, I remember them doing that on the ship. And I could remember they were working down like my leg was there, and they were trying to get down there, and they got to about there and they couldn't get any further. And I was saying, turn my leg, and then you've got to get it right, you know, further down when you want to go. And I had that mark for, quite a long time. We didn't have phone cameras back then, so I never got a photo of it, which I really wish I had. But there was no pain, and it healed up very fast, but I had a scar for quite a long time, particularly in the part where I could see they'd gone deeper.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it here for a second. Was this an actual cut or just an
Yeah,
incision?
an incision, but it
Oh,
was a
okay.
fairly deep.
I thought you meant
Yeah,
like
but
removal of leg. I was like, wow.
no, 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 no. They just it was an incision around my leg, and they'd sealed it with the laser. So it was a laser cut, and then they'd use the laser thing to cauterize it. But it
Okay.
was about 4 inches long. Yeah.
So the next question is from Edgar again, and some of these, I guess I don't know if they didn't catch it earlier, but I hope you don't mind me asking you again, just for their sake. The question is, are you in telepathic contact with your star being contacts? Thank you.
Yes, I am. Yeah, that's how all my books have come through, by telepathic contact. Well, it's really funny because I've written 5 books now, and when I go back and read, the first one, the Zeta message, I'll read it and I'll think, oh my goodness, I don't remember writing that. Because
Right.
they've taught me to be in contact with them and to write at the same time. And then I'll go back and I'll read it and I won't remember having written it. So it's quite interesting.
The only proof left is on that paper. So regarding then your latest work, is what is the general gist of it, if you don't mind going into that? Regarding
My latest book,
right.
yeah, I've actually had 2 books released. Hang on, I've got pictures of them here. One of them, I'll hold it up, is called Cosmic Spirituality, Blending Religion and Science in Oneness from an Off-Planet Perspective.
Hmm.
And that's part of my work down here, is blending religion and science together, because they should work totally in unison with each other instead of being almost opposing forces like they can be. Because spirituality, religion, science, they're all in one package, and it's all to do with energy frequencies and raising your vibrational frequency, which you can do through spiritual practice of some sort. My
So
other
is it
book,
more like practical things that you were given examples, or
yeah, yep. I've explained the nature of God in it, which is really not understood down here. People get all mixed up about God. They almost think of God as being a 3D old man up on a cloud or something. And I've gone into great detail about that, what God, source energy, actually is. I've gone into the energy component behind the 7 sacraments of religion. I was actually raised Catholic. I was educated in a convent. So religion's always been fairly important to me. I was always drawn to it, and until I realised that I was seeking my higher grey spirituality. That was what I was missing. And so I notice a lot of greys down here are drawn into religion. So yes, there's the energetic meaning behind the 7 sacraments is in the Catholic Church, baptism, confirmation, Holy Communion, those. I've also presented a symbol called the Tunaka, which is star language for I am, me in we. And this symbol was given to us many years ago, and it illustrates through to 5D reality. Really hard to explain in words, but I've put a lot of information on the symbol. I'll just see, I've got it here. I'll just hold it up. And it's to assist our transition into the 5th world consciousness. There's instructions on how to draw it and how to use it in my Cosmic Spirituality book. So, yeah, there's a lot of information in there.
I find that symbols they seem to be a vital tool in awakening, or at least triggering a part within ourselves that's pretty interesting, that was always there, but you never knew until you actually have an experience. One particular one, I don't know if you're familiar with Daryl Anka channeling Bashar.
Yes, very.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you probably already know as well that he has these 15 symbols that he had given out and asked people to meditate on each symbol for 1 minute,
Yeah.
so a 15-minute meditation. And I had quite an experience that came about from that. It was interesting too that, I held on to it for the longest time. I've always known about it, and just out of nowhere, I was like, let me just try it, see what happens. And literally the first time I've seen it, it just opened up an experience that I can write like 2 books about. But anyway, what I was going to say is, what is exactly, what is the nature of these symbols? Is it that the first races eons ago that as they're moving forward, they're realizing and understanding certain things, so they're kind of leaving these breadcrumbs behind for the rest of us? Or, can you speak on that a little bit, please?
Yeah. People don't realise there was a lot of knowledge on planet Earth that's been lost. It's going back over, billions of years, and there were earlier races on Earth who have probably left things for people. How symbols work is they actually directly affect our energy body. So whether they're ancient symbols or whether they're symbols that are being given now by ones like Bashar or this one that our teachers gave us, or the crop circles or whatever, they directly work on our energy body to, again, assist to raise their vibrational frequency. I know I keep going back to that, but that's the one important point, is shifting our frequency to a higher octave. That's basically what all these symbols are about.
And what I've also find interesting too, and I'd appreciate comment on this. The change of frequencies, I mean, it can be vast, but sometimes a change of frequencies can simply be our perception of moods as well. Whether, people, don't always have to just associate this huge frequency shift to where they feel like this body shaking and all that. It could simply be of one minute you're angry about something, and then next second you're at peace and you're okay with whatever just happened. That's a frequency change, but it's so subtle we don't think of it as that way. We just say, well, I was mad, but I decided to let it go because it's fine. Different frequencies have different effects, so your state of mind changes too.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Sometimes it's a really, amazing, I had a Kundalini experience, it changes your life, bang. But in the majority of cases, it's so slow and so subtle. I've come to realise this after the downloads that I've received from the upstairs family. I don't even realise it's happened at first. But over the next few weeks or over the next few years, it starts to come to the surface. It's like it bubbles up to the surface, and you realise, gee, that was huge. Like I know after my experience back in 1983, it was actually a walk-in experience because I became a different person. But all it was my higher ET self stepped into my conscious awareness. But it took a while and it took a lot of practice for me to really be able to express it. And this is why they told me to learn meditation, learn Tai Chi, learn a healing modality of some sort. They were the tools that the Greys gave me to use. And we had a long, long talk about it. I think there was missing time involved because, they talked and talked and talked. And we sort of bounced it back between each other and, what do you want me to do? And then they'd tell me, and, what's Tai Chi? And, something like yoga. I can remember all this conversation going on. But it took, 3 years for a start for everything to fall into place for me to be able to take Tai Chi classes and find a meditation group and that. It didn't all happen overnight.
Great, thank you for that. I have a question from Penny saying, Hi, Judy, thank you. My question is, do the Greys work with the Sasquatch?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Sasquatch are often seen on board the ships. The Sasquatch came under attack from the planetary controllers that I was talking about before, and the Greys and other ETs actually took them to an inner dimension of the Earth to keep them safe. This is the reason why a Sasquatch can be seen and then the next minute they disappear. They go through a dimensional portal. Same with the...
Was that something that happened? Was that something that occurred a while back or just recently?
Long ago. But they
can
still
you please,
make appearances.
I know it's not maybe your field, but can you please go as much detail as you can about that? I personally find it very interesting regarding it, because all the stories I've ever heard was always the Greys in combination with the Sasquatch being seen together, not necessarily other races. Maybe someone else has, but I haven't.
Yeah, it's generally the Greys. They tend to be the ones who initiate these things. They were the ones who took the Sasquatch into protection, into another dimension. And this is why the Sasquatch are so clever when it comes to working through dimensions, and, they're much more consciously aware than we are. I know they look more animal-like, but they're actually much more consciously aware because they've spent more time with the ETs and had that training and opening up. But they're interdimensional beings, and they can move between dimensions. And that's why there's very little physical evidence of them, because they don't live in our third dimensional frequency. They live in a sort of a parallel world, for want of a better word.
Were they here before the humans?
Yes. They were the race prior to humans, modern day humans, I mean.
So I guess it would be safe to say that they are the original inhabitants of the planet and we are the aliens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So regarding context, and I don't know, Mary Rodwell concentrates more on this particular part, but I know how the whole stigma about alien contact is happening in the United States. What is sort of the Australian point of view? Is there a growing group and community regarding that, or is it kind of still shunned and frowned upon?
I can see it opening up quite a lot. I don't know what's been shown over in the United States, but they've had a couple of very good programs here over the last few months on it, showing that footage that was taken off that Navy ship, showing a UFO, and they were picking it up in their radar. And they also interviewed a gentleman who was the commander of a nuclear base, Robert Salas, I think his name is. SALAS, and they spoke with him about how the ETs turned off some of their nuclear weapons. They all went down all at once at this nuclear base. And as he said, from what he believes, and he's absolutely right here, the message they're trying to get across is don't go down the path of nuclear weaponry because it's too dangerous. It affects other realities outside of Earth's plane reality. It affects right through the galaxies, and they want us to learn to live in peace. And going down the nuclear path isn't that way. So that, you know, he was quite right there. That's what he assumed that they were trying to say.
So when it comes to contact, some of the, I guess, the biggest argument regarding contact, you'd always say, well, why don't they just contact a scientist or somebody in the government, someone that can deal with this more so we can get to the bottom of it? And from my personal experience, it hasn't been exactly about who's smarter, but it's mainly about who's just more open emotionally and otherwise regarding these type of things, because it is quite weird. Compared to our reality, it is a weird reality on these different dimensions. And so, you know, it's not everyone just every day will just wake up and go, what does that feel like? Let me check that out, you know, and just be totally open and okay with that. You know, most of us just want to keep on living our lives the way we live it on the planet. So can you, or whatever maybe the Grace might have conveyed to you, can you speak to that too?
Yeah. I think the bottom line is of skepticism and cynicism has to be fear. People are scared. They don't want to acknowledge something that's so huge, because when the ETs do eventually make contact, it's just going to blow the whole religion and politics thing down here wide open. So a lot of people who are invested in these establishments are doing their best to keep it hidden. Like, for example, ships have crashed down here, but, you know, people have died, you know, rather than being allowed to speak out about it. They've been killed. So, you know, there's a huge cover-up going on, which the ETs aren't. They're not the ones initiating it. It's the authorities down here doing it. So, yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's frustrating, you know, because we love to just come here. But the other thing is, it's not about physicality. What the ETs are trying to get people to do is to open their awareness to higher frequencies. Now, okay, if they came down and landed on the White House lawn, a few people would get all excited and that, then it would be hushed up. But that's not helping people to open up their higher consciousness, because it's a 3D experience. The ETs are sort of, it's like, what's the word? Evolution needs something to, like a catalyst, to get it going, like the need to move out of the water and come out and walk on two legs, or the need to stop living up in trees and to come down and, you know, walk on the ground. So the catalyst in this is to make people open up deeper awareness, not just pandering to their 3D senses.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, Judy, do you basically just is there any final thoughts maybe you would like to leave us? And then I also would like to ask you to just for those watching, I forgot earlier today. As always, I always ask the guests to send any links, any way that they can be contacted, or at least to where some of their works can be found. So all the links are in the description below, and I certainly hope you check it out and learn more about what Judy has to offer. But also, I would like to leave it up to you to refresh everyone's mind as well, where they can go to look up your work.
Yeah. The main thing for people to understand is what quantum physics is starting to prove: we create our reality by the way we think. And so thinking positive is absolutely vital at this time. And we're really being tested. I understand that. I understand how hard it is. It's a real old Armageddon battle. The Armageddon battle is not between religions. It's going on in human hearts between love and fear. Do we link into our Christ, Buddha, Krishna consciousness, or do we link into our Satan consciousness, which is the fear? This is a decision that everybody has to make right now on an individual basis. And I think that's the best final word I can leave people with. It's a really, really important decision to make. Choose positive rather than negative.
And please do tell us about any of your social media or website.
Sorry?
To tell us about any of your social medias where maybe people can go and follow you, or a website.
Yes. Our website is ufograyinfo.com, and that's grey spelled with an E in the Australian way, ufograyinfo.com. We also have a YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/user/the Zeta message. And the Zeta message is all one word, but a capital T, capital Z, capital M. That's our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of stuff up there. My books are all available on Amazon. My last two books, entitled Cosmic Spirituality, Blending Religion and Science in Oneness, and my other book, An Interview with an Alien, Comments by an Undercover ET, are both available as ebooks. And my other first books, The Zeta Message, Connecting All Beings in Oneness, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, and Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History, are available as print books on Amazon.
Great, thank you for that. And again, like I said, it's all in the description below, so if some of you didn't catch the spelling of the YouTube channel, it's all down there. So, Judy, thank you again. I'm glad we're able to connect and do this. And so I appreciate you doing this, and I hope we can do this again in the future sometime. You're always welcome here.
I'd love to, Adnan. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, everyone else watching, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Please check out some of Judy's work, and I hope you tune in next time. Next week on Wednesday, we should have open lines, so you can call in over Telegram to share some of your own stories, and I certainly hope you do. So until then, y'all take care, as they say here in the South. All right, bye-bye.